Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just exploring some fascinating concepts. We're really digging in to extract a full set of actionable tools you can use in your daily life.
Exactly. Our mission today is about becoming better decision makers, boosting productivity.
But we have to start with a maybe uncomfortable truth. Research shows that while we all like to think we're rational, logical beings, our brains are actually, well, riddled with predictable errors.
That's right. And the sources we're looking at today, they cut through the academic jargon. They dive straight into these invisible constraints on our thinking. The biases, the mental shortcuts, even just plain old fatigue that can derail our goals.
So it's not just about learning fancy names for mistakes.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
The goal is to pull out clear, practical strategies, things like using defaults, better organization, even scheduling to make better choices almost automatic. We're kind of designing our way out of irrationality.
Okay, so if you feel like you're constantly making choices that aren't quite optimal, even when you know better, this deep dive is definitely for you. We're essentially building a toolkit.
Yeah, a toolkit to help you spot those invisible traps, conserve your willpower, and, importantly, architect your environment for success.
And awareness is the first step, right?
Absolutely. So let's start by quickly identifying maybe 3 of the most common mental errors that shape how you perceive reality every single day.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first one. It's a media favorite, I think, and it's why success stories can often be so misleading. Survivorship bias.
Mm-hmm.
This is our tendency to focus maybe too intensely on the winners. The LeBron Jameses, the Richard Bransons, and we really overvalue their strategies.
Right, while completely ignoring the thousands, maybe millions of losers who tried the exact same approach and failed. It creates this massive distortion field.
So when you read those articles like, entrepreneur drops out of school, makes billions,
Yeah, you're reading about the, 0.01% who survived that strategy. For every Bill Gates, there are just countless others with half-finished degrees, bankrupt projects, who took the very same risk.
So here's the key practical question you have to start asking yourself every time you hear a success story.
What is it?
Did this success happen because of the path they took, or maybe in spite of it?
That's crucial. If 99% of people who follow advice X fail, then advice X is probably terrible advice no matter how much that one person won the lottery with.
You have to question the hidden data,
Yeah,
the thousands who didn't make it.
exactly. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the bias that keeps our basements and maybe our digital storage completely cluttered. Loss aversion.
Ah, yes.
We are just wired to feel overly protective of what we already own. We strongly prefer avoiding losses over acquiring gains.
And the feeling is disproportionate, right?
Massively. Losing $10 causes a much bigger emotional hit, like a loss in satisfaction, than gaining $10 provides a boost. The responses are opposite, but totally unequal in magnitude.
But wait a second. If I bought, say, a pair of shoes months ago, and I've literally never worn them, isn't that cost sunk? Why does my brain still register giving them away now as a current loss? It feels really irrational.
It is irrational from a purely logical standpoint, but the pain of letting go, of divesting, it's real. Your brain isn't really assessing the monetary value anymore, it's assessing ownership.
Ah,
Once it's yours, losing it just feels harder. It takes more mental energy to overcome that feeling than the energy it took to get it in the first place.
so that explains clinging to unworn shoes.
Or, why you feel that intense, totally disproportionate anger when you just miss a green light
Yeah.
compared to the mild pleasure you feel when you hit one perfectly. We get really protective of our perceived assets, time, opportunities, stuff.
Got it. Okay, and finally, the granddaddy of them all, confirmation bias.
Right. This is huge. It's our tendency to actively search for and favor information that confirms what we already believe.
While simultaneously ignoring or maybe actively devaluing
Yeah.
anything that contradicts us.
It creates this echo chamber entirely of your own making. Think about any really polarized topic, politics, nutrition, climate change, or whatever. You've got person A, who only seeks out articles supporting their view, and person B, who only looks for stuff tearing down the other side.
Neither is actually looking for new information.
Exactly. They're looking for validating information. They're just reinforcing their own, prisons of thought.
Wow. The moment you realize your brain is kind of designed to seek supporting evidence, not to objectively test your ideas, that gives you tremendous power.
It really does. That awareness is key. It lets you move past these invisible traps and start thinking in a better way.
Which leads us perfectly into the second major hurdle for making good decisions, willpower fatigue.
Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. We often treat willpower like it's this bottomless well of motivation,
Right.
right?
Like you can just power through anything.
But the research shows it's actually a finite resource. It's much more like a muscle that just gets drained with use. Every single decision you make, big or small, is like doing a rep in the gym.
And eventually, you hit mental burnout.
Precisely. And the most famous evidence for this is that, frankly, shocking study done on Israeli parole board judges.
Oh, I know this one. Tell us about it.
Researchers looked at thousands of judicial rulings. They found that at the beginning of the day, the judges granted parole gave favorable rulings about 65% of the time.
Okay, pretty high.
But as the session wore on and decision fatigue inevitably set in, that percentage steadily dropped, all the way down to 0.
0. They just defaulted to no.
They defaulted to no. And it wasn't because the cases got worse later in the day.
So it was literally just the time of day, the fatigue.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, this study showed eating helped, right? Was
Yeah.
it just the food resetting the system, or maybe the break itself, the change of context?
Well, the study strongly suggests it's primarily the fuel. The brain is incredibly energy intensive. Complex decision-making burns glucose like crazy.
Okay.
And crucially, after the judges took a food break, that favorable ruling rate immediately shot back up to around 65%. So, when the brain is tired, the path of least resistance, the easy default decision, is usually the status quo. In their case, denying parole. You just can't run complex mental machinery on empty.
That research is so powerful because it gives us, 5 immediate practical strategies we can use right now to overcome decision fatigue in our own lives.
Absolutely. First, automate small decisions the night before. Plan what you'll wear. Plan breakfast. Pack your lunch.
So you save that precious willpower for the bigger, unexpected choices during the day. It's like front-loading the easy stuff.
Exactly. Second, do the most important thing first. Put your best energy, your sharpest focus toward your critical goals when your willpower tank is full.
Right, like that judge first thing in the morning. Deep work on a project, the core workout, that difficult conversation.
Yeah. If you spend your prime morning energy just answering emails, you've already tired out the muscle before you even get to the heavy lifting.
Okay. Third.
Third, and this is a potentially massive shift for some people, start making daily decisions. Start making commitments.
What do you mean?
Don't rely on finding motivation every single day to do important things. Schedule them, like writing time is Monday and Thursday at 9 a.m., period.
So now the burden shifts.
Yeah.
You have to actively justify opting out of the scheduled commitment rather than mustering the energy to opt in each time.
Precisely. It flips the default. It uses your own inertia, your laziness maybe, against your worst impulses.
Clever. Okay, fourth.
Fourth, straight from the judges. If you have to make good decisions later in the day, take a break and eat something first. Seriously.
Feed the machine.
Feed the machine. Heading into a negotiation, a performance review, an important family discussion, have a snack, have a proper meal. It demonstrably improves decision quality and your emotional regulation.
Makes sense.
And finally,
simplify. Actively look for ways to eliminate unimportant inputs and decisions entirely.
so if decision doesn't clearly advance your core values or mission, cut it. Just delete it. Making trivial choices drains energy and willpower from the things that genuinely matter. You improve your output not always by working harder, but often by ruthlessly cutting the number of things demanding your attention.
Okay, building on that idea of simplification, let's move into part 3. How we can actually architect our environment and our tasks for sort of automatic success.
Yeah.
Using this concept of choice architecture.
Right. This is all about recognizing that our decisions aren't made in some kind of vacuum. They're profoundly shaped by the environment we're in.
Like the grocery store example.
Exactly. Something has to be the default choice. In a store, items at eye level or on those end caps, they sell way, way better. Not always because they're better products, but because they're the easiest, most obvious default choice. The environment is like this invisible hand guiding what you buy.
But the power here is that you get to be the architect of your own environment, your own choices.
That's the key takeaway. You have to consciously shift your home, your office, your digital spaces so that the good behaviors are easier and the bad ones are harder.
Make the good choice the path of least resistance.
You got it. Think about your fridge, that eye-level shelf. Prime real estate. What are you putting there? Fruit and yogurt or leftover pizza?
Uh-oh.
If you want to drink more water, is the bottle visible on your desk or tucked away in a cabinet? If your couch faces the TV squarely?
Well, watching TV is the default relaxation.
But if you angle the couch towards the bookshelf, maybe,
Reading becomes just a little bit easier, a little more likely. It's about small nudges.
and we can use that opt-out strategy for bigger planning too, right? Like how some countries massively increased organ donation rates.
Yeah, by switching the default. Instead of having to actively opt in to donate, the default became donation, and you had to actively opt out.
So for our own goals, we could say sign up and pay for that yoga class weeks in advance.
Right. Now, when the time comes, the default action is going.
Yeah.
You have to overcome inertia and actively justify canceling it instead of finding the motivation to get off the couch and go in the first place.
Turn the tables on your future self. Exactly. Now, this focus on strategic elimination, cutting things out, leads us nicely into the rose bush analogy.
Oh, pruning.
Pruning. The idea is that full, healthy growth actually requires cutting things back.
And this is the hardest part, isn't it? Especially for ambitious people.
Yeah.
A rose bush naturally grows more buds than it can possibly sustain.
Right. And to let the remaining flowers, the best ones, fully blossom, you have to consistently prune away even the good buds, not just the obviously dead or diseased ones.
But translating that, it means cutting out ideas, tasks, maybe even projects that are perfectly fine, maybe even profitable or interesting.
But not great. You have limited resources. Time, energy, focus, money. If you have, say, 3 product lines and they're all doing okay, maybe one is growing 5x. Which one has the potential to grow 500x if you pour all your energy into it? The other 2, even if they're good, are essentially competing internally for the resources that your best idea needs to truly thrive. You have to cut the unnecessary internal competition.
That takes discipline and maybe a tool to help make those cuts, like the Eisenhower box.
Exactly. The Eisenhower box is a beautifully simple decision matrix. You sort tasks based on just 2 criteria. Is it urgent? And is it important?
Which gives you 4 quadrants.
Right. Quadrant 1, urgent and important, do these immediately. Quadrant 2, important but not urgent, schedule these for later, block out time.
Okay.
Quadrant 3, urgent but not important, delegate these as possible. Someone else's priority, not yours. And quadrant 4, neither urgent nor important, eliminate these. Just delete them.
And the key insight from the sources here, I think, is the emphasis on elimination before optimization.
Absolutely. The fastest way to get something done is often not doing it at all. There's a saying in software, there is no code faster than no code.
Yeah, I like that.
The real trick isn't just using the box, it's resisting that powerful urge to put almost everything in quadrant 1 just because it feels stressful or someone emailed you about it.
You need to be ruthless about identifying and just deleting tasks in those bottom 2 quadrants, especially quadrant 4, that don't actually align with your core mission and values.
Okay, so we've covered identifying traps, managing willpower, and structuring our environment. Let's turn now to strategies for communication. Specifically, changing minds a vital skill if you're trying to share these optimized approaches with others, maybe at work or home.
And this starts with a really interesting idea. Understanding why people hold on to beliefs that seem, well, factually false. The sources talk about beliefs being factually false but socially accurate.
Correct. Humans have this incredibly deep evolutionary drive to belong, to be part of our tribe. And sometimes, maybe often, social connection is literally more helpful for survival, historically speaking, than strict factual accuracy.
So people adopt beliefs that bring them the most allies, that keep them in the group.
Pretty much. It preserves their social standing. If truly believing fact X, even if it's demonstrably true, means losing my entire friend group, my support network, well, I'm probably going to find ways to cling to belief Y, regardless of the data. The social cost is too high.
Which is why the saying goes, facts don't change minds, friendship does.
It's largely true. Convincing someone to change a core belief is often asking them to risk changing their tribe, which is deeply painful, destabilizing.
You can't just expect them to jump into the void if they disagree with their current group.
Exactly. You can't just tear down their current reality without offering an alternative. You often need to integrate them into your circle first, give them somewhere safe to land emotionally before they can seriously consider changing their mind.
That leads to some profound, actionable advice. Be a scout rather than a soldier.
Explain that.
A soldier, in argument, is focused on victory, attacking the other person's position, finding flaws, winning the debate.
Whereas a scout,
A scout is more like an intellectual explorer. They're driven by curiosity.
Yeah.
They want to map the terrain, understand the other perspective, learn something new.
that sounds great in theory, being a scout. But how do you actually resist that powerful urge to deploy the perfect counter-argument when you know the other person is relying on, say, socially accurate but factually shaky information, it feels so good to win the debate.
Ah, that's the core discipline, isn't it? The sources say you must be willing to not win in order to keep the conversation going.
Hmm. So the goal isn't intellectual domination.
No. The Scout's purpose is continuous learning and exploration, understanding the map better. You simply can't learn anything while you're busy defending your own foxhole or lobbing grenades at theirs.
Okay. And related to that, there's Clear's law of recurrence.
Right. The idea that the number of people who believe something is directly proportional to the number of times it's been repeated.
Even if the idea is completely false, repetition builds belief, familiarity breeds acceptance.
So the practical application here is maybe the hardest discipline of all.
It might be.
Right.
It's stop fighting bad ideas publicly, or at least think very carefully before you do.
Because when you criticize a bad idea, you inevitably...
You repeat it, you give it oxygen, you disseminate it further. You might actually be feeding the very monster you were trying to destroy just by giving it more airtime.
So silence is death for a bad idea.
Often, yes. It starves it of the repetition it needs to survive and spread. Your limited time and energy are almost always better spent championing good ideas, building positive alternatives, rather than inadvertently amplifying negative ones through criticism.
Wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground here. From spotting those invisible mental traps like loss aversion and survivorship bias, to understanding that willpower is finite and needs to be scheduled, managed, even fed.
Right.
And finally, realizing that you really are the architect of your own choices. You're designing your life, from where you put the floss to how you structure your workday.
Yeah, the overarching theme really is this idea of proactive personal design and awareness. The mental shortcuts our brains use, the heuristics, they aren't inherently broken. They're incredibly useful most of the time.
But they get misused.
They get misused in modern situations where they don't actually serve us well. By becoming more self-aware of these mechanisms, we can proactively design our environment, our schedule, our commitments, so that better choices aren't just possible. They become the default path.
So, as you move forward, trying to apply these tools to your own productivity, your own decisions, your interactions, maybe remember that powerful lesson drawn from the writer Haruki Murakami.
What's that?
To argue and win is often in some way to break down the reality of the person you're arguing against. And losing your reality, however flawed, can be incredibly painful.
So the final thought.
Always remember, be kind first, be right later.